Welcome to another week of the Onefootball Power Rankings. This is when we list the top 10 players from around Europe, but based only on their previous 5 matches. So without any further ado, let's get down to business. As always, we'll kick things off with the winners and the losers of the week. Now, these guys have nothing to do with the power rankings. It's just a shout out to the heroes and villains of the week. We'll kick things off with this week's loser, and we have gone for the entire Barcelona team. Who would have thought after that phenomenal first leg performance that Barcelona wouldn't reach the Champions League final? They completely capitulated under the Anfield lights, losing 4-0 in normal time. There wasn't a standout bad performance, they were all terrible, so for that reason, our loser of the week is the entire Barcelona team. And to this week's winner, Matt Froelich will thank me for this, it's Lucas Moura. The little Brazilian played as if he was affronted by the idea that Spurs couldn't win without their talismanic English striker Harry Kane. His second half hat-trick sent Spurs to their first ever Champions League final, destroying Ajax dreams in the process. What a game, what a week, what a time to be alive. Now, before we get to this week's rankings, let's remind ourselves quickly of how things looked last week. Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Bruno Fernandez were new entries in at 8 and 9. Top 2 was a battle between Liverpool maestro Mo Salah and Lionel Messi, with the little genius coming out on top after his phenomenal performance against Liverpool in the Champions League first leg. So now to this week's rankings, and down in 10th place is Bernardo Silva. The little Portuguese winger was in 4th place last week, but he's dropped 6 spots after a few uneventful performances for Manchester City in the Premier League. Don't get me wrong, he's played pretty darn well by any normal standards, as Manchester City have continued their fine winning form, but he's just not got himself on the score sheet or bagged any assists in his past 2 games. But his past 5 do still include goals against Tottenham and Manchester United, as well as 2 man of the match displays during that period, which is just enough to see him keep his spot in the top 10. In 9th position, we have a new entry. Robert Lewandowski has elbowed his way into 9th place after scoring against Hanover at the weekend. His past 5 games have also seen him score a brace against Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga. He now has 3 goals in his past 5 games, and Bayern are beginning to look a certainty for the Bundesliga title, and his goals have been a crucial part of that. Well played, Robert Lewandowski. 8th place now, and it's another dramatic fall for one of last week's better performers. Nicolas Pepe failed to score against Lyon at the weekend, so he's dropped down a few spots, but good form in the 4 games leading up to that are enough to keep him in this week's top 10. Get out of my shot. Another new entry in at number 7, and we turn our attentions back to the Premier League. Now, Alexander-Lacazette may not have got himself on the score sheet as Arsenal slumped to a miserable 1-1 draw with Brighton at the weekend, but he did turn in a match-winning display against Valencia in midweek, scoring 2 goals as Arsenal put 1 foot in the Europa League final. It's been a strange 12 months for the Frenchman. He wasn't part of the French World Cup winning squad last summer, and his form has been up and down for Arsenal all season, but when he's on his game, he's very, very difficult to stop. Rounding off this week's bottom half of the rankings is another of last week's entrants as well. Lucas Digne has actually climbed 4 places this week after keeping yet another clean sheet for Everton. The Toffees have been in excellent form at the tail end of this Premier League season, keeping 7 straight clean sheets in the league. Lucas Digne has been a huge part of that, and a goal against Manchester United 3 games ago is enough to see him move a few places up the table in this week's ranking. We move into the top half of this week's rankings and say hello to a long overdue Ajax player on this list. Hakan Ziyech may have been on the losing side of the Champions League semi-final clash between Spurs and Ajax, but he was one of his team's better performers across both legs and a worthy entrant in this week's list. A goal in the first half of the second leg looked to have buried Pochettino's boys, but in the end it wasn't enough, but he still has 2 goals and 2 assists across his past 5 games. And had his chance in the second half against Spurs gone in instead of hitting the post, he may have been a little bit further up this list, and he may have even been heading to a Champions League final against Liverpool in a few weeks. Football is a game of fine margins. Up to 4th place now, and we say Guten Tag to Bayern right back Joshua Kimmich. The little right back got an assist against Hanover at the weekend and turned in a man of the match display as the Bavarians tighten their grip on the title. In his past 5 games, he has 2 assists and 2 man of the match displays in total, making him a very worthy entrant on this week's list. Now to our bronze medal position, and who else but Eden Hazard. The Belgium captain has been in scintillating form for Chelsea all season, and thanks to some excellent recent displays, he's fired his way into our top 3, having not been included at all last week. 2 assists and a man of the match performance against Watford at the weekend helped Chelsea guarantee their place in next season's Champions League. He's now got 3 assists in his past 5 games. What a few weeks it's been for Eden Hazard. So now we come to the top 2, and you guys know how it works. I'm going to make a case for both of the players before we reveal who this week's winner is. We're going to kick things off with one of last week's entrants, and it's Sporting midfielder Bruno Fernandez. The 24-year-old Portuguese has turned in some mouth-watering displays for Sporting of late, and he has moved up in this week's table. 3 goals and 2 assists leading up to last week's rankings made him a worthy entrant at number 8, but he's taken it up another notch this week with a hat-trick in an 8-1 mauling of league rivals Belenenses. Not only did he get those 3 goals, but he also got an assist and was named man of the match. Talk about taking it up a notch. Fernandez has been linked with a host of top European clubs after banging in 27 goals in all competitions for Sporting this season. Frankly, ridiculous numbers for a midfield player, but where will he end up next season? Why don't you guys let us know what you think in the comments. The other candidate on our list vying for top spot is none other than Liverpool Wonderkid Trent Alexander-Arnold. The little Liverpudlian turned in a man of the match display as Liverpool swept Barcelona aside 4-0 in the Champions League semi-final. He's just 20 years old and he's now reached 2 Champions League final in 2 years. He also got an assist in that match, and who could forget it? Trent Alexander-Arnold bamboozled the entire Barcelona defence, teeing up Divock Origi with the sneakiest of set pieces for the game's winning goal. He now has 6 assists in his previous 5 matches, which would be good numbers for the best wingers or number 10s in the world, and he's still, as I've just said, 20 years old. I would say he's going to be a world beater if he wasn't one already. I could talk about this kid all day. Trent Alexander-Arnold, take a bow. So before I reveal who this week's number 1 is, a quick reminder of who else completes our top 10. Who shouldn't have been there at all, and who have we missed completely? Also let us know and tell us who your winners and losers of the week are. Make sure you hit the like button and stay up to date with all the other top-notch content on Onefootball. So without much further ado, it is time to reveal this week's winner, and it is, drumroll please, Bruno Fernandez. Trent Alexander-Arnold may have turned in the game of a life against Barcelona, but Bruno Fernandez has simply been too hot to handle recently, and he's a worthy winner of this week's list. That's all from me this week. I've been Ed Cambridge. Make sure you tune in next Thursday to see next week's Top 10 Power Rankings. That's all from us. Thank you very much and ciao.